Reverse thrusters. Aye.
Hailing frequencies open.
Scotty, we need more power. I can't hold it much longer, Captain.
We're losing the Colonel's signal, sir.
Well, what was Spock's order?
His usual, Captain. The two-piece combo.
Okay, give me a two-piece combo.
Aye, sir.
No, wait. Make it 3 pieces. Leave them up, Scotty. Status report.
Close call, Captain. Almost lost the coleslaw on that one.
Captain's log, stardate 2453.87. The crisis was averted, our cravings satisfied. The chicken was excellent.
Take us out of here, Mr. Sulu. Warp factor 2. Aye, Captain.
Hailing you, hailing us, as we engage Warp Drive, a Star Trek podcast. We are, yes, we are. We're live, and we're positively red raw already. The crew are all beamed in. That means it's time to crash out. Of course it is. And that's time to talk about all things Star Trek. 10 Backwards has had a bit of a refit as we've swapped our ship. So don't tell the Admiral, whatever you do, that this makes it an ideal space to transmit to you concentrated Trek talk, banter, and other bollocks right up your alpha quadrant. So we're off again on another 10-week mission, another Star Trek TV series out of the space dock and back on the box and in Star Trek's 60th anniversary year 2. I'm sure that this is what Gene Roddenberry would have wanted, everybody. So, yes, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. There, that deck. All hands on deck. And fall in. Let's do the head count. So we have Chris, the mighty Bowlestrek here. Admiral? He's a Badmiral, the original Badmiral, aren't you? One of Star Trek's biggest YouTube voices, even now. We have Gary Akers over there, all capped up and ready to go. I think that's an Enterprise cap that you're wearing, unless I'm very much mistaken.
No, it's from the 20th anniversary, 1986.
Oh, I am very much mistaken. I was going to say it's 2 or 3 prequels ago. They can't get enough of prequels in Star Trek, can they? We've got the Rabbi from another planet.
Hello.
A medical officer, I think, for the evening ladies. So strip to the waist and form an orderly line. Top down, obviously. Get yourselves.
He's getting his probes ready.
Well, I've got to take them out and clean them first.
And beaming into the guest chair this week. Yes, he's managed to sit out almost an entire season of the podcast, mainly because he wasn't. He had the good sense to bail on the show we were watching last time. It's Keith Isles, bona fide, massive Star Trek fan, one-time completist Keith Isles. Welcome back, Keith.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry I don't have my camera working, so but then you don't have to look at my face, just my Rebecca Gold avatar here. But
well, so based on his avatar, nobody say anything to upset him.
There you go. But thanks for showing us that ad just then, Dan, because I now finally get it. I didn't realize that the producers of Star Trek were actually basing it on that commercial and not the original series. So it now makes total sense to me. That's amazing. Thank you for uncovering that.
It started with chicken wings. Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. So how have you been? Keith? This is the first time we've spoken in 3 or 4 months, I think. Make yourself comfortable, and yeah, we're going to hang out and catch up and compare viewing notes, I suppose. But you keeping okay?
Keeping okay, hanging in there, absolutely. Yeah, it's if it's really nice to be invited back, so I do appreciate it.
Oh, bless you.
It'll be interesting because I think from some of the comments, there's probably going to be a variety of thoughts on this, so it could be quite interesting.
That's the best way to be. That's the best way to be. This is Star Trek's 60th anniversary year as well, Keith. Now, we talked about it a little bit at the start of the year. We're now at 6-7 months in. And things are sort of gradually ramping up. I feel Star Trek has a presence at San Diego Comic-Con this year, which I don't think it has for a long, long time, with a few panels and things like that. And there's some news we're going to get to later on as well, sort of news. So I do feel that Star Trek is gradually getting back into shape, getting its thrusters working again after a few years in the doldrums. Ironically, they seem to be making more Star Trek than ever, and yet it was less culturally relevant than ever. But here we are for the 60th anniversary, and I think people are looking to the past, maybe for inspiration of how to move forward, and obviously thinking of Gene Roddenberry to his legacy and the kind of stuff that he got up to. Yeah, it all kicked off here last time, Keith. You know, we didn't have the best of times when we last got together reviewing the last Star Trek show. So at the end of the run, it all sort of kicked off, and we trashed the place. So they've decked it all out with lots of new bright lights and things like that here at 10 Backward. I don't think the seats are as comfortable, come to think of it. Some of those look like hard plastic, Gary, and yeah, my time of life, I don't want to start getting any back problems, so I'll be sitting somewhat gingerly, I feel.
You know, my favorite art style is Art Deco, and I love the kind of Art Deco style, especially the kind that was very prevalent here in this country, like in the 50s and into the 60s. Some people call it like the space age kind of style, and you know, I just eat that stuff up. So like the on the right, the little kind of like art pieces on the right with the green, all that kind of like space agey stuff, I just love.
Gorgeous. Some of it looks a bit angular, I suppose. It's an acquired taste for some, but yeah, I often imagine that that William Shatner or Robert Vaughn or one of those kind of actors from around that time, Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. could sit down and pour themselves something on the rocks. That was what Dean Martin used to have, wasn't it? Something like.
And this is not intended to anger anybody, and I won't get specific, but this will be a question. So, because on our other show, Dan, you know, you show a lot of retro like pictures from the 60s, and if you could go back to what you were just showing us, you know what? Looking at that, the ceiling design with the ceiling design with the lighting there, you know what that reminded me of as very similar, and I'm wondering if it was an inspiration. Was that exact kind of thing, transpose that to the original version of the other show, Dan? Can you see where I see the similarities?
Yeah, I suppose I can. Nothing exists in a bubble, does it? I mean, what it reminds me of the old episodes, really, of the Flintstones and the Jetsons and things like that, Keith. I think that even in animation form, you can tell that belongs to the sort of the same era, really. Obviously, there's been multiple Star Trek shows. I can't remember how many, probably a dozen, maybe slightly more now. And lots of captains as well. Some of them were better than others. This is very much the roll call of fame. I don't think we've managed to beat any of these at all. Proper legends, and all those ships as well. You know, a lot of people always thought the Enterprise D was rather ugly, but to me, that's a design classic in and of itself too. And I'm quite fond of this realignment of the Starship Enterprise, of the original Enterprise, a sensitive redesign, I feel, which I appreciate more with every single sort of passing shot that we get of it across the episodes and the seasons of Strange New Worlds. So I'm very much of the belief that with these designs, Rabbi, you should never throw the baby out with the bathwater and not make these things sort of unrecognizable. And Strange New Worlds has been on for a few years now. You know, this is a 4th season. It started in 2022. And I think what originally seemed as kind of heresy or unwise now seems well bedded in. I'm not sure the series has made any massive cultural impact outside of sci-fi fans or even just Star Trek fans. But it's definitely got its own look, its own style, and sensibilities in its storytelling, the kind of stories that make up the average season. This is the penultimate run. There's one more coming next year, as I understand it, which means it'll have run to 46 episodes, something like that, which doesn't seem like that many, does it, Rabbi, when you look back across what used to be American network TV and shows like DS9 and Voyager and things?
Right. Firstly, if you're talking about design, that's the one thing they've always got 100% right. Right, I love the design of Strange New Worlds. I thought it was a very faithful take and updated it very respectfully. Right, I've always liked the design. And look, generally speaking, the first season, I thought the design carried it through. The storytelling was okay. We've had a rough couple of seasons with Strange New Worlds. The second season I thought was awful. And the third season wasn't woke. It was just dull.
I didn't like season 2 when I watched it the first time, but I've just rewatched it a month or two ago, and I really enjoyed the majority of it.
I agree.
Apart from the musical episode, I enjoyed all the other 9. It was strange.
Okay, honestly, I thought my memories of season 2 was it was extremely woke, and didn't really do much for me. I just hated it. And then season 2, they seemed to take out the woke, and but there wasn't anything to replace it. There wasn't any quality. So I was a bit dubious about this season 4 coming in. Are we talking about it yet or not? Didn't know.
We're going to get into the.
Just one other quick thing, Dan, because you referred to like the old days of like the 26 episode seasons, like DS9 and Next Gen Voyager. I think just in terms of broadcasting, even US broadcasting, those days that's like almost like ancient history and I don't know. Yes, I think the pandemic contributed to it, but I think even before that, I mean, even a lot of our flagship shows in the US, like NCIS, those things, they do like 18 episodes now, maybe 20 at a stretch, but because especially even new shows, Dan, get like 10, maybe 13. That's it.
Well, as I was checking this out and sort of waiting for Star Trek Strange New Worlds to come back, and I was there looking at the episode list, and I thought to myself how I certainly have become very much accustomed to this now, to just seeing that run of 10. And you think, well, this show's been on for 4 years, coming up for 5 years since I started filming it. And we know when it ends. I'm just thinking a few years ago, it would have been unthinkable. I think there would have been a lot of audience resistance and a reluctance to investing too much in a show which appears only every now and again and only makes 10 episodes at a time. I mean, we're used to it in Britain, but it just seems weird that I wanted British culture to get up to where the American TV system was, but actually it's gone in the reverse, Keith. And their adventure series have gone the way of ours, whereby stuff like shows like Spooks, Survivors, Doctor Who, all that stuff, Bugs. You look back through the 90s. Even Blake Seven in the late 70s, early 80s never managed more than 13. So, and action shows too, it was always 10, a dozen at the most. So I think we're going backwards, Keith. I think we're going backwards.
Well, yeah, they've adopted like the cable basically policy of fewer episodes. I mean, what I think is interesting is when you think of the original series, which only ran for the 3 seasons. That was 79 episodes, So, and we've got 5 seasons here at, only just over half of that, So it is crazy. But you're right.
If you can believe it, the first season of the original series had 29 episodes.
Yep.
Do you think we're now nearly a decade into New Trek, and we've all said more than our fair share about all of the connected shows, but do you feel, Gary, that the reduced episode count has been a contributing factor in none of these shows, either Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, and Starfleet Academy, any of those shows really having any cultural impact? Even the things, the seasons that we as a fandom haven't left no cultural footprint at all, it would seem to me. Not just in Britain, but internationally. Is it because they're shorter runs, or is this stuff just out of fashion?
I think it's no. I wouldn't say it's out of fashion. I think that it's, especially if you look again, like the run of the original Star Trek 60s, 70s televisions, where you have shows that are like, and I'm not going to make this sound pretentious, but that if you're with these shows and with these characters for a good half year out of the year, a good maybe like 30 weeks out of your year, you're with these characters, and then in reruns. So on some of these shows, they become embedded, they become like a part of you're at least aware of them if you never watch them, because they get publicity and advertisements and everything. So the awareness of all these shows was much more of a constant presence back then, like decades ago. And even if, as I said, even if you didn't watch them, you're aware of them. And we here in the US, we only had three main channels. So really, it wasn't like we had just the ongoing deluge of new shows with 1,000 channels that we have now. So the shows that came on, they were much fewer, and so you were more likely to watch it or be aware of it, and it kind of soaked into your cultural consciousness. And now we're in this case where we have so many network shows, cable shows, streaming shows, whatever, vying for our attention, and they're so much easy to access. It's like before, if you watch a show, and I maybe all of you had grade school experiences too. If you watch a show like Happy Days or Knight Rider or something, and you go back to school the next day and you talk about it because everybody was sitting around their TV in their own individual homes watching it. And it was kind of a disconnected, but still in some ways a communal experience, which is gone now, because now we just create our own view lists and we watch it. We're just ourselves watching it, and so that sense of communal enjoyment and experience of all of this is gone. But as far as the low episode count, these shows have 10 weeks, which is basically 2 months, and then they're gone for maybe a period of a year, or a year and a half, and it's much more. All of it is much more ephemeral, just by the nature of it. All of television is way more ephemeral now because, even if we sit on a weekend and binge 6 episodes or binge 10 episodes, okay, well then we're not going to do that again for another year and a half. And you know what? It's a whole different experience now.
Yeah, I agree entirely with all of that. I mean, I was having a conversation with someone the other day about this, in the fact that, now we have so much choice and of what we can watch, when we can watch it, where we can watch it, all of that stuff. I think when we grew up, the sort of Gen X or whatever, we grew up in more of a sort of monoculture where, whether it was sport, whether it was entertainment, whether it was, event shows, whatever, everybody would know about them because you only had 4 channels, and like you said, these things would run for half a year and whatever. So it was much more, and also you'd get a season every year. The other thing that's very different now is not only do we get fewer episodes, but quite often you get maybe between seasons now, it can be 2 or 3 years. It can be almost like the gap between movie sequels, so that's different. The other thing as well, I think that I think the shows suffer a little bit from is when you look at original series right the way through to Enterprise, they always had these sort of stunt shows in some of them where they would try something different. But, these would be 1 or 2 shows a season out of, 20 to 26 episodes. Whereas now we're only talking about 10 or 12 episodes. And if they do 5, this week's a zombie episode and next week's a musical and the week after's a puppet show and all this sort of stuff, then suddenly, you've got less of stuff that tells the stories and fleshes out the characters and all of that. So I do think it's just a very different cultural time with all of this stuff. Any show, not just Star Trek.
And really quickly, if I may, Dan, I'm looking at this picture, and let's just consider Next Gen, right? If we did some kind of mental exercise where we went through each of the seasons of Next Gen, and admittedly, this would be easier for the first 2 seasons. But if we had to cut each season of Next Gen down to just 10 episodes, if we had to lop off 16 episodes from each of those seasons, granted, the first 2 seasons wouldn't be so bad. But you get into when it started hitting its peak, and we had to cut from 26 episodes Next Gen down to 10, we'd be losing a lot of great episodes
Yeah, but
just
you'd be
by
wrong.
just by the
It's like
nature
eight
of we
films.
only have 10.
You'd lose the Dominion War or the Zindi War.
It's
for one
like
thing.
you-
Although Gary, too, another example where it works in the opposite is if you look at Voyager. If you cut 16 episodes out of each of those seasons, you would probably have a much better show because that show was more than half filler. But I think I think there's a couple reasons why current Gen Trek never caught on with audiences. The end of the monoculture is definitely one of them. But again, this run also started in 2017, where we hadn't completely shifted into the streaming hell we are right now. In 2017, Netflix created its first original series, which was House of Cards, in 2013. So really, we're only 4 years into the streaming era. At that point, you only had Hulu and Prime. All the other streaming services didn't exist yet. So we were still, it was sort of the dying embers. But I think we were still, for the most part, within that network context where, you're still watching things on regular TV. I'd say it was by 2020, that's when that starts to go out the window.
You're right. This was pre-Disney streaming, even, wasn't it?
This predates it by 2.5 years roughly. But I think the other problem, or the reason as to why New Trek never caught on, is because they fumbled the ball right out of the gate. And in 2017, keep in mind, there really wasn't a culture war when Star Trek came out. It was actually one of the first casualties. At that point, we had, Ghostbusters the year before that, but, Star Wars hadn't been destroyed yet. That British show hadn't been destroyed yet. All the properties were still intact. The problem is they gave them an inferior product. And if you remember, in 2017, the first episode of Discovery aired on CBS. I don't know if it was the first one or the first two, but it was definitely the first episode. So people did have a chance to check this out, and they didn't like what they saw. Of course, it got significantly worse as it went on. But when you have an opportunity like that, where you introduce it to everybody and you can see it, you give the general public a chance to judge something, and they didn't like what they saw. And I don't think the franchise ever recovered from that initial introduction to Discovery. Although this is a good thing when compared to other franchises, I think the absolute destruction of Star Wars is, household knowledge. Everybody knows what they did to Star Wars. Everybody knows what they did to that British show. Not everybody knows what they did to Star Trek, and a couple reasons.
Well, I think that to the naked eye, I think when things do align, Chris, particularly when it comes to Strange New Worlds, and I think that it's telling that the notion for this show largely came from within the fan base, the demand for it. There was a demand there for them to make this show. I think it's because it looks and feels, to the outside looking in, it kind of looks like what they would expect Star Trek to look like, and I think it largely talks to the audience in the same way, roughly touching the same subjects. I think that it's at its heart, it's still an adventure serial, so it can keep the attention of people who are there for thrills and spills, the odd fist fight, starships chasing one another, all that kind of thing is in there. The science may not be as hard as the science before it, but it is in there, and it could inspire. Like these young ladies, they got inspired by Star Trek, earlier incarnations of Star Trek. So maybe that's all happening.
I'm very
all
inspired.
You know what? I want to see that show.
And
That's a naughty image.
And there is an
That's
old
one
world,
00 agent there.
there is an old world sort of brand of heroism, I think, to Strange New Worlds. It's quite square jawed compared to a great many shows that we get now. And it's still a world away from the kind of stuff that Lee Majors was fronting in the 70s and the 80s. But I think it's sort of in a sort of sweet spot when they get it right, and when the actors are really allowed to inhabit the characters, when they're not, just as sort of Keith said, when the noise isn't coming in from either side with puppets and musicals and various other silly gimmicks. When it's left to be that Starship show, this is the closest thing we've had to. I don't know whether you want to call it Roddenberry's vision.
This is what they should have done. Like,
Yeah, functional.
At the beginning. Yeah.
Well, I think had they introduced Strange New Worlds in 2017 as the new Star Trek series, even though there would have been some well-deserved pushback, being it another prequel series, which is another issue that the show has had. I think if they had begun in 2017, that first episode of Strange New Worlds, which was, I would argue, the first episode of real Star Trek we had gotten since Enterprise went off the air. Had they started with that in 2017, it would have been a completely different story. But the problem is they didn't. And by the time we got to this in 2022, keep in mind, this was before Picard season 3. We hadn't had a good Star Trek episode since 2005, and we had had 5 years of complete and utter trash, because by the time Strange New Worlds premiered, we were, I think, 2 or God knows how many episodes into Discovery. We had just finished off, I think it was right after season 2 of Picard, which is one of the worst things Star Trek might have ever done. So we hadn't had good Star Trek. So I think the fact that this came out 5 years after we'd been fed shovelfuls of just crap, I think it had that working against it. But one thing I will say, even though spoilers for various reasons, I'm not a fan of this week's episode, but not for the same reasons I wasn't a fan of Discovery or the first 2 seasons of Picard. My issue is with the writing and the what I will call jumping the shark element, which we'll get into later. But I will say that Strange New Worlds and season 3 of Picard are real Star Trek. Do I think this show is as good as, say, The Next Generation or DS9? No. Well, it's better in the first 2 seasons of TNG, but not the other 5. But this, to me, does feel like real Star Trek. It does look like real Star Trek. This is going to be our second season, hopefully without wokeness, which I think that's pretty much done. But another issue is this is now a lame duck show. And it will only have 46 episodes, which for 5 seasons is not a lot. And, this show's done. The sets have already been taken down. So by the time the next season airs, Star Trek will effectively, or this iteration will have been done for 2 years, which I think that will affect people's watching of this, maybe. And then, of course,
by this point, because these episodes, Chris, were made such a long time ago, probably came out of post-production the best part of a year ago. We know that the things that we like and the things that we dislike about it, that nothing's really going to stylistically alter on this show between now and the end of it. It's going to largely stay where it is. I suppose the stories and character arcs will reach their conclusion, but the style won't evolve in the same way that Deep Space Nine evolved massively. TNG certainly evolved, maybe Voyager less so, but Enterprise did evolve. We know that this is pretty much as good as it's ever going to get. This is the identity of the show, Keith, and it's never going to.
Now, I'm unfortunately, I agree with everything about Strange New Worlds and whatever. I think, unfortunately, Strange New Worlds, right from the start, has had to carry.
We can't actually hear you, Keith.
I think we lost.
Did I drop out?
Oh, you're back.
Say it again.
Saying that, unfortunately, it had to carry a lot of baggage from the first 2 seasons of Discovery, which obviously couldn't be helped. That was how it is. But unfortunately, it has hampered some of the show. Because of having to carry some of that baggage across with it. Things that make no sense. So, but hey ho, it is what.
And I think we also have to acknowledge that the existence of Strange New Worlds is due, I think, in large part to like fan demand. It's like that was the one thing out of Discovery they liked. It's like, people were already making their dislike of a lot of a lot of Discovery, very clear. But the one thing that when they brought in the Enterprise as the final shot of the first season of Discovery, and then had it more in the second season. Fans were like, no, okay, that we like, do more of that. And thankfully they listened, and gave us this as Discovery, descended further and further down.
Strange New Worlds returns for a further final season next year. We'll get to that in due course. But for now, we're firing all of our phasers at the premiere episode of season 4. We'll make it so, and you can join in and add your thoughts, your reviews in the comments. Stay right where you are. I think there's going to be quite a lot to talk about.
Traveler, welcome to the promenade. Humble quark at your service. Behold, Star Trek Deep Space Nine action figures. Commander Benjamin Sisko, he helps me run the station. And Security Chief Odo, very strict and sneaky for someone so honest. Here's Lieutenant Dax, and Chief O'Brien, and Major Kira Nerys. I happen to know she's crazy about me. Wonderful, aren't they? Especially this one. So handsome. It pains me to part with it, but if you pay me now... security. What a pleasant surprise.
Love that.
All hands on deck. Yes, so here we are. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is back. An 11th Star Trek series that sort of span off from the divisive Star Trek Discovery. Well, did it spin off or splinter off? I'm not sure now I come to think of it. A far more traditional Star Trek show, as we've said. We're now 4 seasons in, and the latest run started on the 23rd of July. And is again made up of 10 episodes of varying length. That's another thing we've had to get used to, that some episodes are 50 minutes, some are 55, some are an hour. I just can't get used to this. All of the main cast have returned from the previous run, and it streams globally now on Paramount Plus. Now, we get this in Britain, but you have to have it as a sort of bolt-on to Amazon Prime. That's how it works before you can get your fix of your Strange New Worlds. And has it taken off? I'm not entirely sure what the presence is like for this show, but between us, I think we'll be able to track whether this is a step forward or another step back. This is the first episode. The premiere is entitled, here we go again, I can never pronounce these episode names, Keith, Valet Marineris. Anybody want to have a stab at that? Is that right? Valet Marineris?
Valet Marineris, yes.
Does that sound right to you,
Yeah.
Is it French or Greek, or is it Latin?
It's Latin.
This is my main problem with all of Star Trek. So bloody pretentious when it comes to these things.
Well, but okay, let me pause it there. That's actually the Valets Marineris is a real thing. It's basically the Grand Canyon on Mars. It's like
a geographical
2,500 miles. It goes across, all of Mars. It's like something like 10 times bigger than the Grand Canyon or something. So it's an actual thing.
And I will say, and to defend the titles, although Discovery did this so badly, it's actually humorous. But that idea goes back to, if you look at the original series, it had many pretentious titles. So I think that's more of a Star Trek trope. But yes, looking at the outside, what was the Discovery one? No one, the butcher's knife cares not. I'm like, shut the hell up. But then also you have For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky. Great episode, but really.
Oh, instantly forgettable. We do have this blurb there, this bit of pub from Paramount themselves. In season 4 of the Paramount Plus original series, the crew of the USS Enterprise, led by Captain Christopher Pike, embark on a series of thrilling, emotional adventures across the stars. As they journey to strange new worlds, they will battle inner demons and external threats, encounter colourful new characters, reunite with familiar faces, and confront terrifying aliens. Through it all, they must strive to embrace a bright, hopeful future. The past, Star Trek tends to go in a straight line, doesn't it? Unlike other more sort of fantastical shows and movies, tends to move forward. I think that's part of the frustration with the prequels. But here we've got an episode of Star Trek dancing around all over the place, the present and the past. It's written by Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonzo Myers, and the director is Chris Fisher. Those are three names I do recognize, mostly from Star Trek, I think. This came in at about 50 minutes. It was very brash, very ambitious, action-led, I think, for the most part, and did have, on the surface, a lot of the qualities that people would associate with Star Trek. If they're tuning in after not having seen it for a while, maybe they've never seen this version of Trek before. I think they will look at this and say, oh, yeah, that's, there's the square-jawed captain, there's the plucky young women, there's the hostile alien environment, there's the action with the main Enterprise and with the shuttlecraft, and there's weird aliens and things like that. So this feels to me like factory setting Star Trek to some extent, I think, Rabbi. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, honestly, I was very pleasantly surprised by this week's episode. You said it was 50 minutes long, but I thought it was an hour long because it seemed a good 10, 15 minutes too long to me. That was my major criticism. Like when they finished it, I mean, spoiler, I'm not going to tell us, but when they finished the main plot, there was like 15 minutes of like people talking to each other, right? And it just went on and on and on and on. But, yeah, which is me thinking this should be a 42-minute episode, frankly, right? So, but generally speaking, okay, the biggest drawback of this episode is what's inherent in the format of the show, which was born in the age of woke. There's just way too many women. It's like you've got to get rid of Christina Chong and Lieutenant Lesbian Latinx, who actually was quite engaging in this episode. I liked how they developed the characters. She had very good interplay with Scotty, who was way too young. But Transport. What's the name of the guy from the original series, Transport the Chief, who was
Kyle.
Yeah. Like they changed stuff around. Okay, you've got to accept those limitations, or whatever those parameters if you're going to watch it. So, but generally speaking, everything was firing all cylinders. Nobody annoyed me. And they normally annoy me. There's normally a scene of like lots of women laughing in a bar together, right? It's just like, oh, shut up, please, cackling at me, stop it, right?
But you're never going to convince anybody that you don't like women in bars.
Well, I've only been like single for like 2 weeks. And like, I'm a rabbi. I'm not looking to hook up.
To your point about the cast, Rabbi, and generally speaking, I completely agree with your sensibilities regarding this. Chicks in space. You know that it's been done to prove some sort of point, or was done to prove some sort of point.
Yeah.
But we have had now the casts joined by Martin Quinn as Scotty, who I think is playing that part brilliantly.
Yeah.
Certainly a convincing Scots accent, very warm character who's recognizably the same guy that I watched in those TV shows and movies. So I think he's cast very, very well, but it has evened things up a little bit. It's evened things up. Well, that's what I thought at first, but people are so baby-faced nowadays. I meet people who are like 35, who I think are 35.
Scotty is supposed to be 10 years older than Kirk. Scotty is supposed to be 10, yeah. And so
but Kirk looks the worst. Of all of them, right? Of all the Kirk he looks like Jim Carrey playing Kirk.
So I like Martin Quinn, and I like how, and I think that as an opening episode as well. Bear in mind that having watched the previous seasons, but with that longer gap in between them, I've just done a refresher. But I did feel like I was reconnecting with old friends. I feel about this cast of characters the nearest I felt about any Star Trek cast since Enterprise, certainly. Whereby I think of them almost on first name terms, if you follow me. So Captain Pike is Chris. It's that kind of Una. Number one has become Una, which is maybe a silly name, but all those names are sticking for me now. I'm really getting used to these characters. Even Dr. Mabenga. Can't even say his name. I can even almost understand him now, 4 seasons in.
He was one of my favorite characters in the first season.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
what? And for me, I've got to say, I won't maybe go into the specifics of the episode yet, but I'll say in general, one of the things, first of all, cards on the table, I love this show. I think it's great. For me, I think the two standouts of, Kurtzman Trek, if I had to look at series as a whole, it's hard for me to say Picard season 3 because then, the first two seasons were like so bad that it kind of colors things as a whole. But for me, Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks, I know that I'm probably the only person who likes Lower Decks, I think have been the two most Star Trek-like series. I think the casting on this series is fantastic. I actually love all the characters. That's that's probably the main reason why I hated Discovery. I didn't like any of the characters on that show.
Except for Pike.
But yeah, I'm talking about, let's say Discovery season 1. I mean, this felt to me quite similar to 90s Trek, more so than, I think it had the aesthetic in some senses of 60s Trek and the spirit of it. But the story being divided with a kind of A plot and a B plot reminded me more of 90s Trek. The USS Enterprise is caught in a solar storm, and that sends them back in time 65 million years, which we find out it's the Cretaceous period on Earth. And so we get the crew, members of the crew encountering dinosaurs. So there's that going on. And then the Enterprise back up in orbit. The Enterprise is captured by Martians, by real actual Martians, who are at war with another species, an insect-like race called the Doldrum. The Doldrum, does that sound right to you? So it's traditional Star Trek. It's a blend of traditional 60s and 90s Star Trek that doesn't do any more or any less than you'd expect it to do. And for that, I did feel like I felt that coziness to watching this, which I can't say that I felt watching Star Trek for a long, long time. I think I'm reassured by the fact that this is, as you said, Gary, I think I've got used to the idea that it's okay to admit this is a quality show. This is a good, generally speaking, a very good quality show. And so to have it back, I find it reassuring. I like to see all those people again, and the way that this series makes me feel. Yeah, there are things, I've got a lot of frustrations with modern television, with the changing culture that Keith was talking about, but I think this is actually a pretty good example of how, largely speaking, as a formula to get it right, it's just such a pity that there's only one more season, because I think they've sort of hit a pay dirt here with the blend in the last season, that we really are going somewhere, and now all of the actors seem very comfortable in these roles, particularly Celia Rose Gooding as Uhura, who seems to just get better.
Oh, she was great in this.
No, she's been
fantastic.
I
love her makeover. She looks really, really good.
Well, a lot of that is the hair. If you look at her season 1 hair versus now, it's like, wow, she's really kind of blossomed. But yeah, I think honestly, I think it's very sad for me personally. I will miss this show and these characters when they're gone. I really will. And I think it's too bad that the timing of this show made it, where it got caught up in the whole, Paramount buy and the whole, shifting away. And I think, we would have got like 4 extra episodes if it hadn't been for that they had to, stop filming at a certain time and all that, because I actually think that this show has a good few more seasons in it. And one of the things we love about the original show is the characters. Yeah, it was the adventures they went on, but it was those characters going on those adventures because we loved those characters so much. And for me, like I said, I mean, not to the extent of the original series, but I mean, I love these characters. I love watching them go through their paces. I would put Anson Mount's Captain Pike up with any of those 5 classic captains that you showed in a minute. I would.
He's a classical hero. When they put him on horseback in particular, He has. He's got that sort of swagger, that masculine quality. I think we could do with seeing more of that. But I like the side to him. I like the kind of leader that he is. And in this, the idea is that he's been on mission after mission after mission, isn't it? He's spent 6 months very, very active. And so he sends an away team down to investigate this particular planet. And as the story rolls out and it's revealed that this is the Earth, Chris, I thought when they revealed things like that, I thought, oh, of course, it's obvious the more I think about it. But I think I was so caught up in enjoying the interplay between the characters and the fact that special effects are outstanding again in this one. And they're not always in this show. They have some weeks, they have some episodes where it's a little ropey, but I thought the effects this time were fantastic. I was so caught up in it all that the plot was just sort of happening to me because it was just sort of moving in one direction. And the villains of the piece are very kind of pantomime-esque, aren't they? But I don't think that this show has done that too often to make me resent them for it. What are your thoughts?
Well, and I'll say I do like the characters in the interplay. Although, why does Spock have to be so horny? That is not Spock. When he comes to the transporter room because he wants to see Chong in her cowboy outfit, and then they make no. They're not even subtle about the fact that they're heading off to bang. That aspect.
I thought they were heading off to dance.
I hate the stud Spock thing that we've got.
He gets some trim, doesn't he, all the time?
He's so the characterization of Spock. At times he's playing Spock, and other times he's playing a horny idiot. So it depends on which version of Spock you're looking at. But
this was light.
The rest of them have the rest of them have improved. My issue was, and why I say that this kind of looks like that my issues are with the story itself, which I would say is something that a 5-year-old would write, because there are certain things, shall I say, that have stretched my belief in this one. It's like, 5-year-old, you're going to write us. Oh, okay. I want dinosaurs. Okay. You'll have your dinosaurs. Okay. Enough of the dinosaurs. Like, no, just enough of the dinosaurs. But no, we're going to do the dinosaurs. Okay. And the Enterprise is going to be responsible for killing the dinosaurs.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I agree. What you say about that. My issue with this episode, even though I thought it was fun and entertaining and whatever, but it was, in terms of the storytelling, I was ahead of the characters. And I'm like, I should not be ahead of the characters. You know, I knew, I was like, oh, well, there's an extra planet in the solar system there. That shouldn't be there. So that's obviously going to be destroyed. And that's what's going to cause the Big Bang and wipe out the dinosaurs. But I thought that sort of halfway through the show. It was like, and then, you watch Pike, who don't get me wrong, I love Anson Mount, I love Pike, but I think, well, I'm way ahead of you, buddy. You know, what's
do you
this?
Think,
I was never ahead of Kirk. I was never ahead of Picard.
Do you think though, Keith, that you're quite right. We were never ahead of those characters, but I think that we've forgotten, and the program makers. It's not our fault. It's the program makers, the brand of Trek they've been making for the last 9 years. Even though we were ahead of the curve with this. In the family audience, if there are any children watching, they probably wouldn't be. And I think that Star Trek Trek in this mold should be aimed at a family audience.
Well, another issue that I had, Dan, in terms of scientific accuracy, because one of the strengths of real Trek, or classic Trek, I guess we'll call it, is, it tried to base itself in science as much as possible. Now, I'm going to refer specifically to the image that you have on your screen right now, because I actually rolled my eyes at this section. So this is 65 million years in the past, folks. This is what we looked like 65 million years ago. We have, your modern hair coloring. You got your snarky leader, your interplay, and all this stuff. I find it hard to believe that this is what we looked like 65 million years ago. Now, that
struck me as well.
So there is that, and then we have our fifth planet of insects, and what one would think, you know, if I was the leader lady looking like that 65 million years ago, and I'm looking to blow up a planet that is right next to mine. Now, one would think they would have scientists. Now, I'm no scientist, but I would tend to think with the way solar systems work and gravitational pulls and all that kind of crap, if you're going to blow something up in the solar system that sort of holds this whole thing together, you're going to cause problems. So you're telling me that none of this lady's sciencey people 65 million years ago said, you know what, maybe we shouldn't blow up that planet, because what's that going to do to the equilibrium of the solar system? So this was my issue. Like the interplay outside of horny Spock was fine. It looked great, but I can only stretch my belief to a certain degree. And yes, Star Trek has done this in the past. So I think in terms of not completely, but partially jumping the shark within this episode is, you know, yes, it's fiction, but it's Star Trek at its core. It's science fiction. It always tried to be slightly believable. This is way too coincidental. I'm like, so you're telling me that if the Enterprise hadn't killed the dinosaurs, nothing would have existed, and this always existed? And then as soon as the rock splits off, I'm like, oh God, they're not going to. Oh, they actually did that. Like, that's my problem. The writing, the believability. We had to have dinosaurs because they're cool. Let's hope they don't do this again. But yeah, the characters were fine. It looked fine. It wasn't woke. My problem is the writing and horny Spock.
Yeah, and in Mars Attacks, they definitely didn't look like Saffron Burrows.
Yeah, and they don't look like the Ice Warriors either.
But you know, look, for me, I have to say, this episode was within the Star Trek realm, your range of science silliness, right? I mean, which has always been there to some degree, right? So it didn't bother me at all. Honestly, it really genuinely did. What bothered me was there was this lengthy CGI scene of dinosaurs like 15 minutes after the episode ended, right? After people talked to each other for a very long time about a few things, right? But in terms of the science is bollocks, but you can say that about most of Star Trek. Yeah. In all fair, to me, it wasn't something as egregious as like sound in space or like time crystals. Time crystals was the thing that really always irritated.
Yeah, that's
right. You know, you used to have a slingshot. You'll go around the sun, increase your speed. You know,
how I view this one.
Go back in time.
How I view this one.
So it wasn't dumb, right? I think for a dumb generation, which is what we live in, this was a smart episode.
How I view this one, I didn't think it was trying. I didn't think this was trying to be scientific. I got the impression this was just a good old-fashioned adventure story, a bit of rough and tumble. At one point, a character shoots a dinosaur in the mouth with a phaser, and which was pretty cool. I was less convinced about one of the other characters punching a dinosaur. Full in the face. I mean, on reflection,
that was not supposed to be taken seriously.
On reflection, that is, I'd say they're trying to develop that character.
Yeah,
with that's Lahan's character, isn't it? Yeah. Because she's got her augmented strength. It was just a very clumsy way of bringing that to the fore. Yeah. I'm sure that's going somewhere, but this will always go down in history as the one where the chick punched the dinosaur. Yeah. It's like that movie where The Rock punched a building. It's that kind of silliness. I don't mind Star Trek being silly every now and again. I wouldn't want it to be like this every week, but I think as the season opener, I thought it was pretty good.
When you say about, we were talking earlier about the characters and liking the characters on this, I'll tell you one thing that I really don't like, and I know it's a choice, but I just don't like it, is Carol Kane as this Palia or whatever her name is, the chief engineer.
Horrendous character.
I find her just
it's like she's Marmite for sure.
It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Every time she opens her mouth, I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? What show is this?
Scrooged extended 2-episode length. Although, and another thing which I was grinding my teeth at involving this character was the comment is, the last time I saw this, I was in a phone box.
Shut up! They did that last season too.
I know. And this is where I'm going to put my foot down right now. Now, outside of the train wreck that British show eventually became, these two universes are fundamentally incompatible with each other. Star Trek, which is one of the things I liked about it and why I have issues with this episode and other episodes in the past as well. I can probably bring examples from each series, but that's what bugs me. But the universe of Star Trek and that British show are fundamentally incompatible because Star Trek at its core is trying to base itself in science, and that other show, at least during the original run, was, aside from the run of Christopher H. Bidmead as script editor for like 2 seasons or a season and a half, was the only time they tried to scientificify or science fiction, real science-ifies. Whatever. I can't talk because I got like funnel clouds in the background, the whole other story. But that British show, the original run, was based in fantasy.
Are you being invaded?
No, that's not me. That's somebody else. But yeah, I won't be surprised if the aliens are invading at this point. It's the only thing that hasn't happened.
I don't want these shows to be connected at all.
No, it's ridiculous.
How about this, Chris? How about this as an alternate explanation? This character has lived, thousands of years. She's constantly making references to the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Maybe she actually just remembers watching the show Doctor Who, and she loved it so much that she actually now convinced herself that she was one of the companions, and that's kind of what she's referring to when she makes comments.
I just think that she's
well, Dan, I'm trying.
Okay, or maybe she was just in a phone box on some bizarre event.
No,
right? I mean, like, you can read it wherever you want.
That's wishful thinking.
We
know exactly what she was
Let's
referring
be thankful,
to.
everybody. This is going to go nowhere. That's the good side to the fact that all of Strange New Worlds has been filmed and the other show is out of production. I think we've had a lucky escape here. Yeah. I agree with everything that you've all said.
I think actually Farsight came up with the solution. Maybe she traveled with Bill and Ted, and that's what she's talking about.
Hey, love it.
Well, that's even more wacky. They didn't even try to explain the science in that movie. It's a phone box.
Okay, here's the thing, really quick. For me on this about the Mars, I do think that I do. Chris's points resonate with me about why does everybody have to look so humanoid and stuff? These are 65 million year old Martians. I did though like the fact that there was a connection between how that captain came to appreciate a civilization that she has never experienced and probably knew she never would. She talks about how she's so incredulous at some point that any idea of worlds coming together was feasible. I mean, I thought that was very kind of moving. And the fact that she did connect and come to respect Pike and the crew on some level. And so the fact that when she sacrificed the ship and got destroyed at the end, I was sad because it's like, I felt bad. It's like, it's too bad that she, that she had to die in order to kind of end this war. And I did like the connection between her and Pike. About the dinosaur thing, that was really just kind of a fun romp. I honestly was hoping, if I have to be completely honest, I was kind of hoping that the ship they found looked more like a freighter and they'd find some Cybermen in there. Part of me on some level was kind of wishing for that. I did like the scene where they kind of contemplate, where Ortegas is contemplating, isn't it sad? I mean, they were trying for a new life, and they had to die too. And so I like those quiet moments. In this one, I liked the doctor at the end saying, look, Martians seeded all of, so many worlds in the Federation, so they did survive. And, as far as the Trek franchise goes, Utopia Planitia, the shipyards that have run through so many of these series is on Mars. So we know that, that it does kind of renew in some respects. And I loved the horseback riding, scene at the beginning. The only thing I would say about the dinosaur part for me is that, and Dan, you referred to it as A and B stories, where I wish that I mean, yeah, they had to go down there to get that power cell in order to help them on the ship later, but it didn't like, I wish it would have connected more. Do you know what I mean? It's like where it felt like, okay, this was a separate adventure down on the planet with the dinos, and now there's a completely separate adventure going on. And I know they were trying to connect them, but I wish they would have been a little bit more successful in connecting it. You know what I mean?
Personally, I was ecstatic they had an A and B story, right? They were trying to go through traditional Star Trek storytelling, which is an A and B story.
Yeah. I also like the fact that Robert April, told Pike, this is not going to be, don't even put this in the logs. This is going to be a non-spec. Bearing in mind how much stuff Pike is already sitting on that's that only he knows about, and apparently the rest. And
I do have to mention my favorite kind of like heart squeeze moment at the end when Pike is describing something to the thing, and she says, "Well, we have like 7 different words for alone, and the way you just use it is widower." I mean, that hit. Yeah. So I really liked that moment.
There were lots of little moments like that, and I do feel that in some respects, the material on the surface of the Earth with the dinosaurs, that they used, there were sequences there where you could see, okay, they've spent quite a lot of money here developing this, making the dinosaurs, making the surroundings look good, and they wanted to show it off. Most series that have a dinosaur episode do that. And you're quite right. I enjoyed the quieter moments, and I think that we could have done with more of those and less showiness. I think they could have had some sort of, again, they need it to be the Earth, don't they? So it's a good shorthand for prehistoric Earth. Put a dinosaur in it rather than some cavemen or any kind of sort of primordial life. It wouldn't have had the same effect, I suppose, on particularly on people who are trying this version of Star Trek for the first time. So I can see why they made the decisions that they made. But I think there was probably a better story, a punchier story underneath the surface of this, sort of trying to break out. Because as silly as some of this was, and as enjoyably silly as it was, and quite superficial, I think the central dilemma that Pike is in between him and Saffron Burrows' character, the Martians, is really interesting. It's quite well worn. It's something that we've seen before in Star Trek, as well as a million other things. But again, they come at it from a slightly different angle, and so I found this affecting. And I've watched heaven knows how many episodes of various shows covering exactly the same ground. But the fact that it can still make me mournful of these, technically the villains of the piece, means that Saffron Burrows played this part well, and it was quite well considered in terms of its writing. I didn't know that Saffron Burrows was on TV. I chiefly remember her from Deep Blue Sea, when she was being eaten by sharks, if you remember, like 25 years ago, Keith. So I'd always wondered what had happened to her. Now here she's on Star Trek. I also enjoyed the appearance of this character, a new character, a Vulcan cadet called Ashar, who they just seem to bring in from the background in traditional Star Trek style. They did this on Next Gen all the time, where, say, O'Brien would get given a cadet to show around, or Geordie or something like that, some peripheral character. And I thought that she was really charming, very well played.
Very pretty,
in the manner,
and she played it well. Yes.
Well, it's in the manner of the kind of characters we got in Picard Season 3, when they introduced us to Geordie's daughter and the various other crewmen. They didn't try to force us to like them. You will like this person because of their identity. You will like this person because they are incredible, impossibly good at everything, and everybody seems to love them for no apparent reason. This is somebody who, on the surface, is quite unlikable, and so she's terrible to poor Uhura, but in a way that you can't help but laugh at the turns of phrase, I suppose, that she goes to Uhura with. You think, well, how would I handle that? How is she going to manage with this, just being a few years on from her own graduation from cadet to ensign? So I think all that stuff's good. I hope that this character is going to sort of run through the rest of it. That would be great.
I mean, the last couple seasons, especially last season, they had 3 recurring characters that they got rid of. They got They had Ortega's brother who was doing the documentary. He's gone.
Oh,
They
thank
had
God.
the medical ensign who I really liked, who then got killed and turned into the villain. And then they had, of course, the Battelle, who's gone. And so I wasn't surprised that they're going to try to, bulk up the recurring characters a little bit more.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this character, Chris? Because you were quite taken with the Mardi Vulcan in Starfleet's Academy, weren't you? The one that they killed off.
Oh, you mean the Vulcan that made fun of everybody and called the show out for what it was? Well, yes, this young lady is delightful. But again, this show still has a gender imbalance problem, which goes back from the woke days. So that I do have an issue with it, where you need to. This one gender is way overrepresented on this show. So I would have liked to have seen some more balance. Although she's so unpleasant, which that's basically, if you want to summarize the character of a Vulcan in one word, it would be asshole. So she has this down perfectly. Like they're dicks. So.
They'll have some scenes with her and Spock.
Oh yeah, well he bangs everything, so I'm sure.
Well, no, I don't mean like on that. I mean more of a you know what this kind of reminds me of? The Kim Cattrall character from Undiscovered Country.
Oh right,
Valaris.
Valaris.
Gary, I will say, given that this Spock is a horny bugger, no, he's gonna bang Grumpy Girl.
Did anybody get T'Pol vibes like from?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So I wonder then, Keith, are they going to be doing any like gel scenes?
Oh,
where they're like doing the gel
no.
rub scenes now.
Yes. Yeah. God, I love Enterprise. But no, I mean, the thing is, the Spock stuff is for me very annoying. That's the one thing about this show and I don't blame Ethan Peck. I blame the writing. It's not Ethan. It's not Ethan Peck's doing a bad job. It's just the writing is terrible for Spock. Terrible. But but this was a fun episode. I totally agree with that. So yeah.
It's okay.
And also, did anybody notice? I'm sorry, Dan. Also, did anybody notice every season they always add a couple or three new effect shots to the opening titles?
Correct. Yeah.
And this time, the one I really noticed was that great overhead shot of the Gorn ship descending.
Yes.
That was a great shot. And then there was like tell me if this was new or not, Keith, that the black and white, there was like a black and white shot.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yeah,
that was new. Okay.
They've lost my favourite one. I was very upset. They've over the years they've shed most of my favourites of those, because I thought the original title sequence and the season 2 one was spectacular. I'm less keen on this. I appreciate the fact they're changing it up. But yeah, they've lost most of my favourite bits. There used to be a scene where the Enterprise was sort of following the curve of a planet from above. I thought that was just beautiful.
I still love the theme music though. I think Jeffrey's theme to this.
That's what I was going to. That's just what I was going to say. I think this theme tune is perhaps my favourite of every Star Trek theme. I mean, every Star Trek theme.
Oh wait, you mean you like this better than Enterprise?
I didn't even mind the Enterprise one. My favorite is still Voyager.
I don't know if you've seen. You can go on YouTube and find this. Somebody took the original Enterprise, the closing music, which was of course originally intended to be the main title sequence, but which they call it Archer's theme. It's like da 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 na 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 na. That one, which closed every episode. And somebody took the actual existing Enterprise titles and they overlaid the music as it should have been with that instrumental theme, and it works beautifully. I wish they would have kept to that. It's on YouTube if you want to find it.
Yeah, I've seen it. It does work much better. Sorry, what was his name? Russell something or other. Yes,
Russell Watson. Yeah,
that's him. Yeah. Sorry, buddy, you suck. So yeah, we'll just, somebody just do a re-edit, and we'll do that.
If you could score this one, out of 5. What would you give this out of 5, Chris? Valet Marineris. Where would you score this?
Okay, so
you can give half marks.
Let's the way that I rank these things. Okay, so there was no wokeness, so it does have that point, but it had horny Spock, who was turned on by cowboy boots. That's not good. It had a completely nonsensical plot. Well, no, I'm not nonsensical. I'm going to call this a stupid plot. This was like I said, this is what a 5-year-old would come up with. I want dinosaurs. So it loses many points for that. So I'm going to make this show put its dunce cap on. And for this episode, I'm sorry, but horny Spock, you lose a lot for that. And I just this plot, no, I'm sorry. Give us something not like this next week. So I'm going to have to give it a 2.
2 from Chris. How about you, Rabbi? What would you give this out of 5?
I'll give this a 3.5.
It's very fair. Very direct. Very direct. Yeah. 3.5 from the Rabbi. How about you, Gary?
I give this a solid 4. I thought it was whatever you'd say about the kind of silliness of the plot. I think there were a lot of great character moments. I think each character got a really strong individual moment. I thought that the guest star was great, and I thought the opening scene, on the horseback was just superb. So yeah, very strong 4.
And I will say I am looking forward to Grumpy Vulcan making Uhura cry, because that almost happened in this episode. So that was kind of amusing. I can appreciate a good asshole. So we'll see where that goes.
Taken out of context, that would be an odd statement.
We'll clip that. Keith, how about you? What would you mark your mark out of 5 be for the premiere?
Yeah, I think I'd give this a 3 out of 5. I thought it was a fun episode. I thought it was very enjoyable. It was definitely a step up from what we were left with last season. It does carry some baggage that I'm not happy about, that I've already said. And I didn't like the fact that I'd figured out the plot before the crew had. That kind of annoyed me. So that's why it's only scoring a 3. But yes, it looked good. And it was an enjoyable episode. My fear is that things are going to go downhill. That is what I'm worried about. But,
well, Keith, we haven't seen the puppet episode yet, so we know that's coming.
I have a serious question, because I've actually spent the last couple of weeks re-binging seasons 2 and 3.
Right.
And so recurring characters, obviously, I'm watching like 2 a night, 3 a night, whatever. Do you guys overall think that they've been, of course, just for seasons 2 and 3, do you think they're using Kirk too much in this series?
Oh, way too
Yes.
much.
Yes.
He shouldn't be in it at all, in my opinion. But
I
it
agree.
was
I was disappointed. I was disappointed when they brought him into it. I think using the other characters was fine, but Kirk should have remained a distant figure.
Yeah, I didn't mind the episode 10 of season 1 where they did that, going back to Errand of Mercy. But
that
was good. That was good. That worked. But that should have been, in my opinion, the only time they used Kirk. And I just think that they've ruined it the way they've had him in this way too much. And we're going to have loads more to come. It's quite obvious.
It's one of the reasons why. It's one of the reasons why, Keith, I've got no appetite for Star Trek Year 1 sequel series to this, because I think, well, this is sort of that.
Well,
Nowhere really left to go. And with a different bloke sat in the captain's chair. Otherwise, it'd be the same show. So what's the point?
You know what? I agree for that reason, Dan, but here's for another reason. I actually don't have that big of a problem with, the way he's doing Kirk. I like seeing, him and his brother together.
He's grown
but here's the thing. We only have, I think, because I love these characters so much, we only have a limited amount of time with these characters before we're never going to see them again. We can go back and watch hundreds of hours of Kirk if we want to.
Yeah.
But I want to see the series focus on these characters, since we don't have that much more time with them. Not because I dislike Paul Wesley and the way that he's playing Kirk. I actually say that one of my favorite episodes of last season was the the one where we see where they're trapped on the ship, kind of like the Doomsday Machine episode,
Yes.
where with the Planet Eater, because we get to see these characters before, that they're not in sync with each other. And Kirk's he is not a captain yet. And we see Kirk, totally unsure, not in sync with anything. I thought that was a very strong episode. But overall, I kind of agree with Keith. I just think they're using him too much.
I'll say...
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Keith. I'll say this real quick. I don't think Paul Wesley is doing a bad job. I don't mind the character, but that character is not Kirk. And I think, I agree with Funky. No Shatner, no Kirk. Because you have William Shatner, who is now 95 and who has made it very public that he wants to play Kirk again. And amazingly, he could probably still do it at his age. And they pissed away that opportunity. I would rather this just be a different character altogether. I don't think if we had year one, I think it would have been a downgrade because Anson Mount is just a better captain than the Paul Wesley.
Yeah,
I'll just call it the Paul Wesley character because it's not Kirk.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny as well. I mean, this show, whereas I think this show does do a lot right, and it's definitely been my favorite of the, in inverted commas, modern era of Star Trek. I still think that the way this property has been managed is appalling. And I read a story only this week, and again, I take everything with a grain of salt because there's a lot of noise out there, and there's as much misinformation as there is.
There's a lot of bullshitters on our side of the aisle now as well.
But I did read this story that was about Academy Award winner Roger Avery, who worked with Quentin Tarantino. He was a writer on some of the stuff, and he's a massive Star Trek fan, massive fan. And apparently he went to Kurtzman and Co. and actually said, listen, I would love to come on board and I've got loads of Star Trek knowledge and I'd love to come on and sort of help on the writing team and all this. And apparently he got told, no, thank you. We don't want Star Trek fans working on this show. And
I heard that story.
And
I think
that
it's a true story.
is so apparent. It's so apparent when you look at the amount of stuff they get wrong. The amount of stuff
extraordinary. Before we wrap this up, I personally, I agree with Gary. For me, this nudges up to a 4 out of 5.
Sorry,
I thought it was.
Sorry, Dan. I realised that we didn't get your score, and I started. What
I thought it was very enjoyable.
Sorry.
I wouldn't wish this show to be like this, to this model every single week. But I think for a season premiere, to remind us of how far the show has come since it premiered and how we may have missed them while they were away, I think this does what it says on the tin. And yeah, there are lots of little things that irritate about it to me. I mean, the scene where Ortega, no, it's not Ortega, it's Lahan punches the dinosaur is simply ridiculous. Under any circumstances at all. I just hope that wherever it's going, it's somewhere that is worthwhile across the next, not just the next 9 episodes of this season, but the 6 of next year as well. They've obviously got an endpoint in sight to work on these characters and take them wherever they need them to go. The rest of this run is being released weekly until September the 24th, everybody, over on Paramount Plus. So yeah, catch up if you haven't seen it. If our conversation has teased you a little, let us know. Time to take a break. I think we're sort of all talked out for the time being. Let's take a break, head off back to the final frontier and take a look at another advert. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good.
Meteorite storm. Scotty, beam us up. Scotty! Don't worry, Captain. It's only a shower. I don't mean to brawly, you wally. Beam us up.
Captain, I haven't got the power.
Try, man, try. Power! More power!
The man's power, man.
Uh-oh. Start again.
Well, he certainly hasn't got the power. Good afternoon.
but you could have national power and power gen.
To register for a prospectus in the generating company's share offers, call 0272 272 272.
That commercial is canon, by the way.
Do our best. We're back with more Warp Drive covering the latest season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And this is the moment in the show where we hit the view screen and take some of your comments, find out where you are with it. Have you seen it? Are you on board with Strange New Worlds, or are you still uncharmed by the show, by the cast, by the plots, by the general culture behind modern Star Trek? There's no wrong answers, of course. I've just noticed on this poster, they've even got Kirk on the poster on the far right. He shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
To the ready room for a debriefing, and Uhura is opening the hailing frequencies to hear what you've got to say about the first episode. So, yeah, this is Valet Marineris. Oh, sort of, yeah. Let's hear what you've got to say. We've got lots of comments, and some I've set aside to take a look at. So what have we got? Who have we got it from? Hi all, says Funky. Star Trekking across the Kurtzman verse. Do we need a puppet episode or a brand new Captain Kirk? 60 years on the Enterprise and things are getting worse. Very good.
That's very impressive, I have to say. Dan, I have to tell you, I'm giving you a cracker's warning. I got about 5 minutes in me, right? I am fading fast.
Okay.
You got to say it.
My crackers, I am cream crackers, ladies and gentlemen. My crackers are super cream.
Rabbi lives in the crackerverse.
You heard it here first.
You did well. You hear it here often as well.
Crackerverse, indeed.
Since this is the
60th anniversary, Strange New Worlds needs to do a Gorn episode. They've just done an entire Gorn plot.
Yeah, they have.
Loads of it. It looks good. I think there's people who just aren't watching this show and have never watched this show, but watched the reviews of it. I think we're in that sort of weird culture with sci-fi and with geeky entertainment appreciation. Why would Victor Fontaine says, why would any Star Trek fan waste their time watching this Kurtzman track? Kurtzman is minimally involved in this. That's probably why it's been so good. Again, Victor Fontaine evidently hasn't been watching it either. Hi, Victor. Chris is right, says Lucy. It might be fun sci-fi, but it's not Star Trek, as it lacks the smartness as it needs to be real Star Trek. Exactly. My argument is it doesn't need to be topped up with smartness every single episode. None of the other shows were. Admittedly, there is only 10 this time, and I share Gary's frustrations on all of that. But the idea that every single ounce of every other Star Trek show was dense with this sort of intellectual matter and thick concepts, it's not true. It's the kind of things that fans of this stuff tell ourselves to justify it to the not we. It's okay to be fun as well, is my take. And Farsight says they should never have got rid of that Andorian chief engineer, Keith. He was brilliant.
Yeah,
I miss that character too.
I was so mad. I'm so mad that we got Carol Kane replacing that guy.
Oh God!
I want to see that engineer, the earlier engineer, Andorian dude. I'd love to see the interplay with him and the asshole Vulcan. That would be awesome.
Exactly. I just don't.
They'll probably get on really well.
The female Vulcan has gone down very well with people watching here on YouTube and commenting along several remarks about her hotness. I don't mind a female Vulcan, says Power Ranger Donny.
That was actually related to me. No, it's not the idea of a female Vulcan I have an issue with. It's the gender balance in its totality I have an issue with. I'm perfectly fine with this character. The character is a complete jerk, so me being one of them myself, I can appreciate it. But I would like to see more of a balance. But here to your other point, Dan, I will say it can be silly, but I don't think this was the best idea for a season premiere. To have something this outlandish and over the top, because I can suspend my disbelief to a certain amount. And with Star Trek, and there are a lot of ridiculous episodes across them, but that is one of the things that I don't like about Star Trek when it does these kinds of things, where I think it stretches belief too much, because and it depends on how you view the show, because we're not all going to view it the same time or the same way. I still view this as, based in reality to a certain extent to the future, which will be much prettier than the bleak nightmare we're headed towards, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, and I can see both sides of this. I know some people, you just may not care. You just want a fun time, but not in the Marvels type of fun, something that's like actually fun. So it depends on which side you lean towards. For me, I prefer the scientific side, but yes, Dan, you are right. This is not something that's entirely new in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Even in the original series, there were some outlandish episodes. I'm like, where no man has gone before that, we're dealing with gods in that episode.
Yeah.
But this one, it's just, for me, this was a step too far, but I will say I'm obviously not going to write the show off. I think the characters are fine. And I know each year we get some good episodes. So I know we'll get some good episodes this year, and whatever the hell that puppet episode is supposed to be. So that's sort of my clarification, the way I see it. Although if you see it differently, or if anybody sees it differently, I'm fine with that.
I understand
because the
your
good thing is
viewpoints
it's not
completely.
Right. But Ken, a much more important question as we're talking about sexy female Vulcans.
How are the crackers?
Do you? This is my last thought. That I'm going. Do you think that Vulcan hookers can initiate Ponfar? Because hell, I would pay for that. 100%.
Okay, so Rabbi, Vulcans have multiple times the strength of humans.
That's a good way to go.
You would be going. That would be risky.
Well, in Rabbi, you only have to pay for it once every 7 years.
Yes. Well, no. Maybe there's a rotation.
Here's the other issue. Apparently they didn't look into the whole thing because Spock is banging left and right. Unless
he doesn't wait for Ponfar. He's always on Ponfar, baby. Okay, I gotta go. I'm cream cracker. I'm talking ultimate cream cracker. So I'm going to bid you all a good night, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on my channel tomorrow, probably, if not be Monday, but probably tomorrow. Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye, Rabbi.
Good night, mate.
One thing to clarify something about Ponfar, Chris. It's a misconception that Ponfar means that Vulcans only have to mate once every 7 years, and they never ever do it anytime else. No, it only means that at that point, when you undergo Ponfar, you have to mate.
Well, yeah,
it doesn't mean that Vulcans never do it until once every 7 years. Yeah, no, that's
here's the way I always viewed it, and it's not the whole 7 years and you blow up. I'm like, I guess Vulcans don't have incel culture because that is my joke for the day. But my view of Vulcans is because. And they don't have emotions, which is a misconception. Vulcans actually have emotions. Well, actually, they did it very badly last season. But their emotions are so strong that they're actually dangerous. So what they are is the reason they're assholes is they're a completely emotionally repressed species. But the way I've always taken it is because they try and conceal everything or push everything back, that they outside of the horny epidemic that comes every 7 years, I always viewed it as they would only do the nasty when they had to procreate, and because that would be the logical way of doing it. But this Spock, he is the horniest character on this show. He gets turned on by cowboy boots in this episode. I'm like, really? This is not Spock. But it's like, just poor Spock, what they've done to that character. I will say this, that character is not, at times he looks like Spock, but that is not Spock. That is a different character. Yeah. Imagine Leonard Nimoy as Spock in, say, season 1, or no, we'll go season 2. Yeah, that's Spock. Getting all horny because somebody came on dressed like a cowboy. It just doesn't compute.
But see, Chris, remember the 3rd season episode, The Spectre of the Gun, when they go back to OK Corral? There was probably a lot of deleted scenes in that where Spock was like being really turned on.
Gentlemen, it's getting to the point where there's no female left safe in the Star Trek universe. No female at all.
Even I don't think Spock would go into Pon Farr if Sam was around.
Well, actually, you've actually solved. Okay, so somebody tell the Vulcans. So because I'm sure they don't like being super horny every 7 years, because that creates a whole bunch of problems. So your ultimate plan for that is just get that picture, or she's a hologram. So just make a bunch of Sams, or as I used to refer to it, the heftygram. And then whenever the Vulcan gets horny, just start up the heftygram, and then it'll go away, and they'll never want to do it again. But yes, Vulcan sex life is very confusing. I'm confused, but but Spock is way too horny.
One quick question that something you said brought up, Chris, to me about the gender imbalance among the characters. Do you guys think that might possibly be? I know that they're trying now, they're in a full-on push to kind of lead right into the original series at this point. But before, do you think that could have been one of the motivators behind them bringing Scotty and Kirk in so often, is to kind of like try to fix that gender imbalance among the
Scotty, as far as I know, Scotty actually was an attempt to address that imbalance, and it did to a certain extent. I'm not saying you can keep your female characters. I don't hate them
I know you're
anymore, but I think you need to bring in more male characters. One strong, and I will say there was an imbalance in the other series, in obviously in the original series. I'm not going to say there wasn't an imbalance there in the other direction, and same thing with some of the other shows. But you have your strong role model. I think Anson Mount is, there are certain things about him I don't like, but for the most part, I think he's a strong male role model. But I think you need more, and Scotty is not really, at least in this case, your role model, because this version of Scotty is a kid. So who apparently he ages 30 years between this show and the original series, so we'll see how that actually happens.
You never know.
Yeah, well, an aging array, because he only has a few years to turn into James Doohan. So we'll
what's interesting though, comparing the actors and the way they're playing them here to the original. The next time I go back and rewatch the original series, I'm going to have a really, really hard time with Majel Barrett as Christine Chapel, because I love the way that Jess Bush is playing Christine Chapel here, and the character is so different. Obviously, we're talking like 60 years, and Nurse Chapel was playing the kind of love-struck, typical for 60s, women on TV. They weren't allowed that range, but I can't equate the way she's being played here with the way that Chapel was on the Enterprise, and I like this Chapel much better.
Not the same character at all. That is the problem when you recast characters, and that is the problem when you're doing prequels, which is a fundamental issue with all of Kurtzman Trek, aside from obviously the Picard seasons. The good one and those two abominations are the only time the show's actually gone forward. But that's the problem when you recast these characters, is you can't take a character that was originally devised in the 1960s and then try to equate that same character as to how they would be portrayed in the 2010s or the 2020s. It just doesn't work.
I mean, granted, there wasn't that much of her character back then to do much with. I mean, she was a nurse who mooned after Spock. Really, I mean, there was no place to go but up.
Well, there's continuity issues there too, because by no indication in the original series did her and Spock ever have a relationship 10 years before that.
I mean, they're not using these legacy characters. I'm not going to mention that word that several people have put in the live chat. Come on, grow up. They're not negating these characters. They're not being realized in any kind of reductive way. They're not walking props. They're functional parts of this story. And you could say, they shouldn't keep making prequel after prequel after prequel to Star Trek. But we knew what this was when it started. They are developing those characters, showing us different sides to them. So whilst I have issues with some of the makeup of the average run of Strange New Worlds and the things that they choose to align with, I think the storylines concerning La'an and connecting her to Khan Noonien Singh Those are, you're going to make me say it, member berries. I hate that phrase.
Yeah.
It's so fucking juvenile. But that is what that is. This is a choice to use these characters because it's almost finding it irresistible not to. And I understand the creative urge to do that, particularly if you think, oh, I know an actor, he'd be great to play Scotty, or I understand that. And it's the same with Paul Wesley. They evidently like him. He is growing on me. It's not that he can't play the character as written. It's just that it would have served this show better if he would have been at a distance. That is the future, not in an ominous way, but in a to preserve the myth, I suppose, to preserve the aura around that man, that figure in particular. But everybody else, I think it's absolutely fine. It's just that they've got to be handled with care. For the most part, I think they have been. It's just that the choices that they've made, to me, means that a year one series is absolutely pointless. But again, I accept that other people feel differently. There's a lot of appetite for that show.
If we were getting like 26 episodes a season of Stranger Worlds, I wouldn't care if Kirk showed up a couple of times a season. I wouldn't care if it was like out of 26. Fine. Okay.
Not for half the season.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I take issue with the idea that only William Shatner can play Captain Kirk. I thought Chris Pine played it brilliantly across all levels of that character. He got that nailed down. But obviously, William Shatner is irreplaceable and an absolute legend, which takes us over to the view screen this time to just catch up on a few things that have been going on in Star Trek. I suspect that you're as touched as I was to see this. William Shatner and his daughter Melanie disclosed just this week they'd both been quietly fighting cancer, stage 4 cancer. They've both beaten it. They're about to launch a new project together. But in an exclusive interview with People magazine, the 95-year-old actor and his 61-year-old daughter shared that they both had faced advanced cancer at the same time, and that Shatner himself had endured 2 years of treatments, which would have been, I would imagine, grueling.
Well, he's in his 90s. Well,
95.
And he had it in 2023, during which time he would have been 92. What 92-year-old other than William Shatner beats stage 4 cancer? Like, that is incredible.
And goes into space.
Yeah, exactly. It was around the same time. I'm like, this. If you want an actual role model, I mean, like, look at that man. That man is 95. Most of us, all of us. Like 99% of us will be dead long before then. This guy is 95, and this is why I am pissed off, because you could have, instead of what you did with Picard those first 2 seasons, you had this man who wanted to play Captain Kirk again, and you decided not to do it. Although, going back on Dan's original point, this is the issue that I have with Star Trek, where, and it's a well-known issue, but your canvas is the universe. It's a show that now spans centuries, but you keep going back to the same time frame. I'm more, rather than having Captain Kirk recast, give us something new. I think Strange New Worlds, they easily could have put this after the end of Picard, or a few years after, like you wouldn't even really need to change the aesthetics that much. You could have Anson Mount playing somebody other than Captain Pike. You could have the same cast. You could even have the exact same set, because it does look significantly more advanced than what you had on The Next Generation. I think that is another missed opportunity, where not only this show in 2017, but this show taking place, say, 50 years after The Next Generation. You really don't need to change anything other than the names of the characters. Like, instead of Anson Mount playing, Christopher Pike, he's playing Captain Brown. I don't know. Come up with your own name. But it would have
Captain Rockjaw or something like that.
Yeah, Rockjaw, or Captain Sexy Hair. Yes, all props to William Shatner. This is incredible. Like, this man is absolutely amazing.
You know,
Like,
the term living legend is thrown around too pejoratively, but it really honestly does apply to this guy.
Yeah, like
So
I don't
just
think
to-
we've never seen
just for
anybody
anybody-
like this.
For anybody who hadn't heard, I want to make it very clear that both William Shatner and his daughter Melanie are now cancer-free.
They
They've been
beat
cancer-free for a
cancer.
couple of years.
Praise God. Praise
They are
God.
Stage
currently
4 in well, she's
remission.
in her 60s, he's in his 90s. Like few people will beat stage 4 cancer, period. But the fact that this man did it at that stage in his life, and if you watch any interviews, he is to this day like so mentally sharp. Like it's like, you know, do some genetic testing. What does he have?
You know what, Chris?
else
You know what, Chris? I want to hear. I want to hear Shatner announce, in celebration of my being cancer-free, I'm going back into space.
He could. Actually, I could see this man on his 100th birthday going back into space. I'm going to knock on wood.
Absolutely.
They are about to embark on a brand new project together. The father-daughter combo are turning their experiences, their life experiences, and their experiences beating cancer into a new podcast. They describe it as a wellness and longevity podcast. It's called No Time But Now, and it launches in just a few days' time on July the 29th. And
I'm going to tune into that.
I absolutely am. I didn't know that.
Very best wishes for that project to the Shatners. And congratulations. Our thoughts are with you both. Our admiration, our love, our respect, and our thoughts. I think we should definitely listen to that podcast at some point. But you talk about new ideas. You talk no time but now.
No time.
When you talk, no time but now. So when you talk, Chris, about being a bit braver, you know, the spirit of Shatner, he's a very, very brave man, very clearly a very brave man. Being creatively brave with Star Trek and going somewhere else, I couldn't agree more. And that's where this last story takes us. So it's been 10 years, believe it or not, it's been 10 years since a Star Trek film was last in the cinema. With Star Trek Beyond, starring Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, and Simon Pegg, and all that cast. Doesn't seem like 10 years, but in some ways it does. Oh yeah, it's well past time. We've seen project after project after project get announced, some with directors attached, and then have it completely fail. But there were 2 new names attached to write a Star Trek feature film a little while ago, about 6 months ago, and then it went very, very quiet, but they've been speaking this week exclusively to Collider. So Collider had an exclusive interview, yes, with the writers and directors of the upcoming Star Trek movie project. This is Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly. 2 names that I don't think many people will have heard of, and they've disclosed what they can about their script, about the project, about their take on Star Trek on the big screen. And in many respects, this does seem quite brave. They disclosed to Collider their story, their screenplay, their film is a total reset featuring an entirely new cast of characters. And they're setting it further into the future than has previously been explored. I mean, I think we can, you know, if you forget about the silliness going on in Discovery, where they're in the year 85 million or whatever, you know, in proper Star Trek, going further into the future than we've gone before. So they're aiming for a total clean break from all the past storylines, you know, and anything to do with one universe or another. But they're going to be targeting both new audiences, like the current audience, family audiences, and long-term fans, to make something truly mainstream and spectacular, blockbuster-esque. So these 2, Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, are responsible for this film in 2018, Game Night, which starred Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams. This is a lot of fun, this film. Very imaginative, very snappy, lots of energy. Yeah, it's about a husband and wife, isn't it? And a wild weekend of sorts. So I like this movie.
And notable, Dan, about that film, that was out of that sort of dark or that twisted adult 2010s comedy, sort of the Apatow type movies. This was the last of those movies to come out. So that it was actually the end of an era.
It's quite clever, as I remember it, Chris. It wasn't a gratuitous kind of movie.
I have Blu-ray. I've watched it many times. It's awesome.
Yeah, I also read this. I also read this article, Dan, and I think this is great news because we're now on our third version of the original series.
Yep.
And I just think, you know, bearing in mind that the you know, it was within a decade that it changed the first time round, the second time round, you know.
Yep.
And I just think, yeah, we need to. It's a big galaxy. The Federation is big. Starfleet is big. There are other worlds out there, and we need to move away from Kirk and Spock and whatever, and find some new characters. It worked for the Next Generation, so why wouldn't it work for another one now? You know, so.
I don't know why they've been so resistant to it. I've never understood that.
Because they're creative bankruptcy. But here's there's a good thing and a bad thing to this, Dan. The good thing is, yes, this is exactly what we want from Star Trek. Although I don't want another Star Trek movie. I want a good Star Trek series, which, you know, Strange New Worlds is not perfect by any means, far from it, but it's the closest we have. But outside of some of the original series movies, Star Trek has never really worked in movie format. It's an episodic science fiction show. I'd say if you're going to do a movie, make your movie your pilot episode and then go back to episodic Star Trek. It's the same thing with, you know, I think with the motion picture. I think that actually was a missed opportunity because I would have loved to have seen the series.
Chris,
that was supposed to be there.
If they conceive of a story which is cinematic, and look at it in that sense, and then populate their screenplay, the place and time they're setting this, populate it with recognizable Star Trek-like characters, the square-jawed hero, the slightly grumpy MD or first officer, a cadet or two. Then I think it could really, really work. I think Star Trek is conspicuous by its absence on the big screen, but I understand why. Let's put it this way: having seen the Alien TV show, I'm glad that we never got Noah Hawley's Trek movie. I'm also glad that we never got the one by that woman who went on to do the Game of Thrones prequel pilot that nobody's ever seen. I can't remember her name. So there's been several, and there's not a single one that I regret. That I mourn for.
Also, the way
but these
the way
two
I
guys
look...
seem like the right guys to do this. Keith, their last project was this Dungeons and Dragons film about 2 or 3 years ago, which didn't do very well. If you remember, it starred Chris Pine, Hugh Grant, and Michelle Rodriguez, and that dude from Bridgerton that everybody fancied at the time. So it got all them in, and it didn't do very well, but it did quite well on home video and streaming, to the point where they're now talking about doing another one. So it would seem that they did deliver.
Chris Pine, there you go, a link there, right there. No, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, to the point, I know what Chris is saying about, you know, Star Trek, you know, having originated on television and being an episodic show and all this. But when I think about it, my introduction to Star Trek is, you know, I'm always saying I'm old, but I'm not actually as old as Star Trek. So the original series had, you know, obviously run and been cancelled and finished and everything before I was even born, right? So the Star Trek I grew up with was actually the Star Trek movies with the original series cast. You know, the motion picture through Undiscovered Country. Those were and I actually loved having a Star Wars movie every 2 or 3 years. In fact, the way it lined up, they always sat right between the original Star Wars trilogy. So it would be like 1 year I'd get a Star Wars film, and then the next year I'd get a Star Trek film, and I loved that. So
it's
you know.
I think the 80s prior to the Next Generation was actually, it was a very different time to be a Star Trek fan, because, and I think Star Trek to its fans was a lot more special back then too, because it didn't have the massive universe it had right now, where, you know, and I was a Star Trek fan. I think all of us were before the Next Generation aired. We were all kids at the time, but I remember Star Trek as being, you know, this, you know, just being absolutely obsessed with the original series and knowing most of those. I could, at one point, I could have quoted half the episodes line by line. And, you know, you had this classic thing, but every now and then you get this, the event of the movies. And I think, aside from Star Trek V, which is a catastrophe, I think those other And I eventually warmed up to the motion picture, but it took several decades. I think those other 5 movies, especially the 2 through 4 trilogy, are awesome.
Right there.
Yep.
Right there.
Well, I would take Star Trek 5 over having to watch Section 31 again.
Oh, yes.
Anytime.
I'd take a colonoscopy over.
I was about to say somebody needs to make one of Rabbi's colon comments. So
well, but you know about these guys, and I actually do think that this is cause to be hopeful. One of the other things that they did, they also were the writers of the first of that Spider-Man Homecoming, which was the first of the solo Spider-Man ones with the one with Michael Keaton, who was the Vulture.
Yeah, which was
I like that movie.
Yeah.
And these guys, I guess yesterday during the opening, the first full opening day of San Diego Comic-Con, they basically were in Hall H, which is basically the main big showroom for San Diego, giving an update, and they were saying much of the things that Dan just said. Obviously, they can't give a lot of details, but that they're going to.
I've got a quote here. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Absolutely. Yeah.
It won't be the characters that you've seen previously in your Star Trek movies.
Which is what
so there'll be a new sort of take on that. And I think it'll probably be a little further into the future than we've gone before.
Brilliant.
And then they went on to say, everything we take on, what draws us to it is the opportunity to do a different spin on something that you've seen done before. And that's our hope with this, is to satisfy the fans, but also to bring people in who may not consider themselves lovers of Star Trek and surprise them.
When you think about it, guys, this is going to be on the big screen, which will be different, but this will be the first time since Star Trek The Next Generation that the franchise has ever done this. Because when you think about it, everything they've done since has been going back and doing a prequel, right? So this will be fantastic if they can pull this off and make it, feel like Star Trek and have some familiar things. We'll have certain species and technologies and all of that stuff that is iconography of Star Trek, but with new characters doing new stuff. I mean, I think that's really exciting, and that is literally what The Next Generation was supposed to be in 1987.
And Keith, don't forget that the Paramount, under the Ellisons now, they realize that this has to work. I mean, that this movie has to succeed in order for this franchise to have a future.
Well, there's
also one more thing is that the quote that Dan had just put up about connecting with fans, and that to me is one of the ways that I'm choosing to interpret that is these guys saying, look, we know what worked and what didn't work about the last.
We know what
few
they
years.
did to your show.
Yeah, we know that Discovery did not. We know that Discovery did not satisfy the fans. We know that. So I think they realize if you want to be different, you've got to do it in a way that connects. And so I think these guys are well aware of what worked and what didn't work about the last few years. And as far as the dating of this goes, I actually agree. I think, Dan, you referred to it later about setting this at a time like further ahead. I don't think that means keeping the last few years of Kurtzman Trek into consideration. I think that probably means further ahead than the original series, Next Gen, whatever, and then the movies.
Just clear enough, Gary, that they won't be inundated with people going, what about this person?
A couple 100 years after, a couple 100 years,
I think that Star Wars is trying to do the same next year with their Starfighter film with Ryan Gosling. It's kind of to wash the franchise a little clean of some of the complications, some of it is debris that any kind of franchise is going to accumulate after several decades, and some of it is obviously shrapnel damage.
I think
sustained in the battle.
Well, Dan, I think I think it's also very risky doing a movie Like what I would like
It
to see
is,
is
yeah.
okay, do a movie and then do a series after the movie. Then you get the best of both worlds. But and I
nice,
think it's
nice tie-in.
Yeah.
The best of both worlds.
But exactly. But the issue is, and I think Star Wars is going to face this as well. I think right now in this climate, especially with established franchises, it's very difficult to make because you need to bring people in. And Star Trek, the good thing about Star Trek is a lot of the awful things that have happened with this franchise went under the radar because most people didn't even know it existed, but it's still there. I think the problem with the upcoming Star Wars movie and a potential Star Trek movie is the same thing that's happened to both Marvel and DC, where look at what happened to Supergirl. And I'm not, if you want to see my thoughts on the whole situation, just watch my videos. I'm not going to repeat them here because we'd be here for a while. But look at what happened to Supergirl. That is a catastrophe unlike anything I've ever seen in terms of a movie flopping, unless you're Madam Web. But at least Madam Web was, the funniest thing I've ever seen. So I think it's a risk. I think this does need to be done on a low budget. This cannot be a $200 million budget film because Star Trek was niche to begin with. I think the fact that 2009 Star Trek made that much money was a fluke. That's when around that period, movie theater attendance was the highest.
Well, Chris, I believe that could be why they've gone to them and why the failure, the at first pass failure of Dungeons and Dragons hasn't harmed them because it was quite a modestly budgeted film, and so nobody lost their shirt over it.
And you don't need a massive budget. Like Dan, you do not need a massive budget to make good Star Trek. Look at Star Trek Continues, brilliantly made show with no money.
Yeah,
so
and Harve Bennett when he did the Star Trek 2 onwards, because obviously
that was produced by that was produced by Paramount's TV division.
Yeah, and it was the budget had been slashed because of the motion picture and
the Ellisons. Look, the Ellisons are not going to come in and dump $200 million on any movie right now.
Nope.
Well, what's interesting? What's interesting is both. I think both Star Trek and Star Wars are in a similar state, right? Basically, and it's quite interesting because I think. How one does very much informs what the other one does. They sort of just kind of copy one another to a certain extent. So yeah, if we can get one of the franchises on track, maybe we can get them both back on track. That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Well, I think give us I think you could do a decent Star Trek movie for $50 million. I'm like, look, I look at Obsession. Now, obviously, it doesn't have
that shit.
Effects. It does have some. But that was made for less than $1 million. I watched it. It looks amazing. And it does not cost what it used to do special effects. And don't do AI for the love of God. But no, 50 million max. I'd say even less. You could how much did it cost? They spent $10 million on each abomination that was Starfleet Academy. Honestly, even $10 million. If you know what you're doing, you do not need to cast name brand actors because you do not need to cast name brand actors. There are a lot of talented actors out there that nobody had ever heard of the Next Generation cast before they had been cast. Nobody had ever heard of DS9 or even Voyager. You don't need big name actors. You can cast unknown actors. Pay them decently, but you don't need to pay them millions. Get people that know what they're doing, get people that have a passion for the show and the franchise. Give us something good. Make sure you give us a good story. I'm fairly certain at this point it won't be woke because that era is pretty much done, even though some are desperately trying to keep it alive. Yeah. It's not going to happen. And I think the good thing about Section 31 is it was so bad that they've seen how bad things can get. And it's like, I think they're just saying subtly, we know what they did to you. We won't do that to you.
Yeah, Agreed. By the way, who's that on screen, Dan? Sorry.
This is Celia Rose Gooding who plays
Oh,
Uhura.
wow.
Well, we haven't got another story to go to. I just think it's a fucking great picture. She's
Yeah,
smoking
no,
hot.
absolutely.
You know what, Dan? I thought this was like a shot from a coming episode where the Enterprise goes to 2025, and this is what Uhura has to wear down on our planet.
Don't show it. Don't show it to horny Spock. That's going to be a problem.
Well, bearing in mind, he had a relationship with her in the other timeline. Yeah.
We've wiped the screen just in case he gets carried away. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It returns on July the 30th with an episode called The Griffin Incident. That's streaming as ever on Paramount Plus globally. And if you're in Britain, if you're in the United Kingdom, you can get that as a bolt-on to Prime Video, and it's quite cheap as well. And you can sign up for a month or two, can't you, Keith? You can sign up for a limited time and then cancel. Is that right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very convenient way of doing it.
And if you're gonna,
go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and if you're gonna subscribe to Paramount Plus to watch this, I actually recently started watching From, which is a great show. Now, unfortunately, it's a mystery box, and I'm only partway through season 2, so I'm fully expecting to be disappointed. But what I've watched so far is great. It's on Paramount Plus, and I highly recommend it. So there you go. I gave a plug. From
FROM. I think they announced that it's wrapping up.
It's a planned end, 5 seasons.
Yeah.
So it'll be 50 episodes in the end. But season 1 is brilliant. Like it's probably one of the best TV shows I've watched in several years at least. Because usually when I start a new show, I get bored and I rarely end up finishing them. No, this one I'm like, I'm watching multiple episodes at a time. I'm probably going to watch 3 episodes tonight. So I highly recommend it. So if you have Paramount Plus to watch this.
You know, when we're talking about horny Spock, the scene, Chris, that bugged you so much about the fact that he was going to go off and he was going to go take off Lon's cowboy boots. I actually think that would have been the perfect time to start reusing some of the original series themes. Like as they walk out the door, you hear the down, 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 down. So it's clear what they're going to go do.
Well, no, it would be more like the perfect because it's Vulcan. Dun 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 dun.
No, that's for when he has to fight. That's for the fight.
It's Vulcan sex. It's probably very.
That's not Vulcan sex. That's Vulcan fighting.
Well, I know, but Vulcan sex is probably very much like some shit goes down. So
you know what, Dan? Next week we need to talk about what does Vulcan sex look like.
Yeah. By the way, guys, I have a question. Sorry, it's not a question relating to Star Trek. It is a question just relating to streaming, and I just wanted an opinion. So tomorrow, I don't want to know anything about the show, but tomorrow I am finally going to get round to binging Spider Noir, right? But what I'm trying to figure out is, do I watch it in black and white or do I watch it in color? And I just
we covered that at the time. We covered that at the time, and I had. Now this has caused a lot of problems for Amazon because apparently they intended to offer it seamlessly, whereby people could go between one or the other. And it didn't work. So I intended on watching it in black and white, but because of some sort of problem with their interface, I don't know if this is a global thing. I think it was particular to Britain and the rest of Europe, in that you could only watch it in color. When I watched it, which has been a couple of months ago now, you could only watch it in color. I couldn't access the black and white one. I still enjoyed it a lot. But you might want to try again. I mean, I would hope that have ironed out the creases in the 2 months, because that was a sort of a USP of that show, and it was. They're not the first people to do that, but
to the point that I'm like, I don't know which ones are what. I can't make.
I personally, Keith, I watched it in black and white only so I could. It would help me judge how successful it was in recapturing the noir feel it was going for.
Sure,
that's why I watched it in black.
That was my plan. That was my plan too. Yeah, let us know how you get on, Keith, because I needed to see that, so I thought, oh well, whatever. And it was great in color because the color version also it has a kind of heightened feel to it. It doesn't look like Strange New Worlds, for example. It doesn't look like a contemporary show. So there's something different about the color one too. Let us know how you get on, by all means.
Thank you. I thought you'd be good guys to ask.
Well, we do our level best, don't we? But before we
I would
beam
say
out,
Keith, watch one episode in color, one black and white, one color, one black and white.
Probably not a bad call, actually.
Yeah.
That's probably not a bad call.
see where you end up. Yeah, see where you end up. We know exactly where we're going, don't we? We're going for another spot of this before we head home.
Hey, do you guys have any Star Trek 5 tapes left?
Where is the Star Trek 5 video?
You got Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier?
Please. Any Star Trek 5s?
Ooh, thank you.
Great. Thanks.
Fabulous.
Yes. Oh, thank goodness.
Would you happen to have Star Trek 5?
Yes, sir.
Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier? So tell your dealer you want to see it.
Another mission well and truly logged there, everybody. Thank you for your time, for your company, your questions and comments there in the live chat. In fact, we do have a couple more before we head off. So let's just take a look at the Star Trekky questions there, and ideal for just when you're just finishing off that last mouthful in the bottom of the glass. Is it dead? No. Does it look dead? Does it look dead? No. Just leave it. Just leave it. Enough time for us to get an answer into Farsight's question here. I have a question. Was Commodore Decker the father of Captain Decker from the motion picture?
Yes.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Which episode? Which episode will people recognize the Commodore Decker character
the Doomsday, I think it was the Doomsday Machine. Was where
episode,
you had,
episode 35, the best episode of the original
I
series.
agree. My favorite episode of the original. And I adored, I didn't mention it before, can I say how I loved the callback? You know, like in this episode, hail the constellation and tell Commodore Decker that we'll be there.
Oh yes,
but slightly delayed. That was awesome. I love stuff like
that.
Yeah, no, that was good. But no, so and Willard Decker, who was in the motion picture, was his son. Yeah, that was the.
It's very clear if you read the novelization of the first movie, because it goes into Decker's background about how he felt, pressured by having the famous father and everything, and so
And you do not want to see what happens with Captain Decker, because we don't talk about that actor. Things.
You mean Stephen? Oh, you mean Stephen Collins? Oh, okay.
Yes. He did some things.
He merged with Ilea.
He did the things. He did some things. Best not talked about.
No.
Walls have ears, everybody. Walls have ears, and so do goats. Chris, goats definitely have ears. Two of them. Well, at least Frank was still in one piece when last we heard. But anything can happen down on the farm.
Well, I haven't gotten any updates from Frank, so hopefully we'll have some soon. But this is when we last saw Frank. We know that the pigs had it with Frank. So one was going to beat him to death with a spoon. The other one has a spatula. But the really angry one on the right has a knife. And I don't know how this ended up for Frank, because he's awful. We know how bad Frank.
Filet-o Frank.
Hanging's too good for him.
And so Satan couldn't take down Frank, but maybe some angry pigs can. So hopefully we'll get some updates soon. But I know we're all siding with the pigs.
Very much so. Very much so. Well, I hope maybe he'll get it sorted out in time for Star Trek's 60th anniversary. That's kicking off next month. I think we're only about 46 days away, I think somebody said, who was watching on YouTube and is up on these things. So, it's just a few short weeks away. And there is a 60th anniversary episode of Strange New Worlds on the way later in the run, too. We can't wait to get round to that. There's a few more to get to between now and then. We're going to be here for each and every episode, for better or for worse. We say that now. Bear in mind what we suffered, the indignity that we suffered at the hands of Strange New Worlds at Starfleet Academy. Sorry.
There you go. Yes.
But we're here. We're back after all. Thank you. My thanks to everybody in the live chat there who's contributed, who's been patiently listening to us ramble on this podcast that we actually live stream, because, well, why not? But the idea, we can still take questions and things like that, and we can find out where you are at with it. I get the impression not that many people are actually watching the show, which does speak to the question that I had right at the top about all of these new Star Trek shows. Is that it's kind of, this feels now like it's tying up tying up loose ends and dotting I's and crossing T's, and it all feels like a bit of a formality. And the people who are on board, but I can't see anybody new coming aboard this show now for what little does remain. Yeah. And I think that's a big shame. Perhaps when the stuff gets sort of packaged up, maybe, and I mean, the beauty of Paramount Plus, I suppose, is they can always place it on one of the larger international streaming networks in due course, and maybe it will sort of grow its fan base, because that does tend to happen.
Not only
we shall see.
Yeah, I not only do I share your hope that that's what happens. I actually think that it will happen because it deserves to. I actually think that again, I mean, I said before, I like Lower Decks, but if I just had to pick one redeemable, rewatchable series of Kurtzman Trek, it absolutely would be Strange New Worlds. And I think it will be rediscovered once it's free of all the politicking and the anger, the current internet anger over Kurtzman. Once that's all in the past and the show can just be viewed for good or ill on its own terms, I actually think that people will rediscover
I think
show and see it on its own merits.
I think, Gary, this is going to be like Enterprise, where it was largely either not watched or despised when it was on the air, and I think probably 20 years after the fact, the show was rediscovered. And I think now Enterprise is viewed in a completely different light than it was when it originally aired.
Definitely.
So I think, the separation of a decade or more, and, when we're outside of the horrible environment in which this show was created, and I hope we're out of it in 10 years. One can always hope that they will be able to look at this. And I think each of these shows will be viewed differently. I think Discovery will be, my God, what the hell is this?
No.
I think nobody's like Discovery is. I think people, upon revisiting that, will realize it's worse than they actually remembered. I think Picard is going to be a missed opportunity. What the hell did they do to that character in those 2 seasons? And why is there such a disconnect between seasons 1 and 2 and season 3, which are basically completely different shows? I think Lower Decks is just going to be a niche thing. I think Starfleet Academy is going to be, what the fuck was that? My prediction is I think Starfleet Academy might be the only Star Trek show that does not get a physical media release, because I don't think it's been announced yet. And I don't think even hardcore completist Trek fans will buy it. So I honestly think it may be the only Star Trek series that does not get any Blu-ray, DVD, whatever. I think future Star Trek custodians may want to bury that one. So it'll be like they'll bury that in Discovery. It's like, you'll have to go put on your pirate hat to watch either of those shows.
I think future Star Trek fans, as they're discovering all of these shows, for the first time, even the big 5, I think that they'll probably go. I agree with you, Chris. I think that if they blow through Next Gen for the first time, I think they'll then automatically skip just to season 3 of Picard. Well, I think they'll skip over the first 2 seasons.
I would actually go further, Gary. I would remarket that as the Next Generation season 8 is what I would do.
Oh,
yeah, I probably would as well,
because that is an extra season of the Next Generation.
Yeah,
and just
which unfortunately suffers from baggage from the first 2 seasons, like a bit like Strange New Worlds does.
It's there are some holdovers, but I think it can stand alone. And Nick Horton, yes, I did get. Well, my front door is fixed. The deadbolt, everything was completely replaced. I now put in a rather large strike plate, so it can adjust with the door when we have weather events, because we're like weather hell here. My back door is fucked. It's like literally I just got it.
He's speaking literally, everybody. He's not speaking figuratively. He's speaking literally.
Yeah, that one I just got it so it could close. It's jammed up again, but I never use that door anyway, because that whole it's like a
He's not been the victim of a home invasion. Everybody by some tweakers and
No. If
right.
you guys are missing 2 weeks ago, I was late for the stream because I actually got locked in my house because we had a sudden weather shift and both my doors had seized. An insane amount of money later. I am very happy with the job that they did on my front door, and I haven't been able to use the back door in years anyway, so I don't care.
Well, I do hope you're able to retrieve the rest of your weekend. You find something nice to do or nice to watch. Maybe you'll rewatch this episode of Strange New Worlds and see if it charms you some more. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows, Keith? Thank you, as always, to the Rabbi from another planet. If you don't know where to find him by now, then frankly, you never will. He's over there on YouTube, his own YouTube channel, live streaming daily about the issues of the day, whatever he's been watching, his dating life too, his various, the cut and thrust of his new life as a single man. You can go through that blow after blow. Well, but you know what I mean. Day by day there with the Rabbi, and you'll never look back. You'll never look back. As for this, there's more Warp Drive, a Star Trek podcast on the way. You can catch up on earlier editions of the show, 3 whole seasons worth of reviews of past runs of various Trek shows on the dedicated Warp Drive Star Trek YouTube channel. Keith Isles, it's been great to have you back, mate, to get stuck into Strange New Worlds, because I've never been really sure where you sat with this, because I know you took them quite a while to prize you away from being a completist, but you seem very up on the deal when it comes to this show. So I do hope that we can tempt you back for more of these conversations whenever you're available, because you are always welcome, mate.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I really hope so. I mean, this has been a good start, but bearing in mind, you see in my name there, I had Let's See What's Out There with my good friend Pete Mealy, who's based in the States, and we did cover quite a lot of Star Trek shows, but quite frankly lost our enthusiasm because of the last couple of seasons. So it's nice to be able to voice some of this here instead. So yes, I hope I'll be able to join you on future episodes.
Yeah, we'll get some simulations running. Bring Pete over by all means. That could be a laugh. See where he's at with it. But until the next time, Keith, thank you very much. Gary, same to you. Another playtime, well and truly sorted out. I think I enjoyed this sort of on a similar level to you this time. And I'm very hopeful for the show going forward, because sincerely, I really enjoy Strange New Worlds, and I think I used to feel conscious of saying that, but no, I don't give a shit.
I just want a less silly plot next week. So let's isn't the
like as I said, first of all, like geeking out about Trek is like one of my sweet spots. So thanks for having me on. It was great to be on with Keith. I love it when he gets a chance to visit. And I mean, I'm really looking forward, as opposed to after we all reviewed week 1 of Academy, where I was looking to the following 9 weeks with soul-crushing trepidation.
By week 5, I thought you were ready to walk out screaming into traffic at one point.
With this one, well, I think actually, I don't know, Keith is here for that. I don't know, Keith, which episode it was, but it was like the first time which sparked me to go on like an honestly, not a Chris level angry rant, but about as close as I was ever going to come to one myself. Was finally sparked by Starfleet Academy, because I just couldn't take it anymore. With this, I'm looking forward to the next 9 weeks, because like I said, I love the show. I see myself in future going back and like rewatching the whole thing. So I'm very much looking forward to our coverage of this.
And it is one show that is worth getting on physical media. I own the steel books of all 3 4Ks. They look amazing. I had to order Chris, the 4K of season 3 from the UK. Luckily, I have a Region 3 player. Because the 4K isn't available for some reason in the US. Don't know why. I think it was available for a very short period of time. You basically had to pre-order it, which I did as soon as the notification came up. It was, even by the time it was released, the 4K was not available. They put out a standard slipcover version of the previous 2 seasons, so that's probably coming later. But yeah, it seemed to have sold out. I don't know if it was a lower print run or maybe
strange.
this show is more popular than we think. But yeah, I have those, and I have season 3 of Picard, which is only on Blu-ray because it was only shot in 1080. I told you this.
Great special features on that, though.
Yeah.
I went through the whole thing earlier this year for my.
It's probably to keep the cost down.
Yeah.
It was probably to keep the cost down, wasn't it?
Oh no!
Because-
They didn't want to give. They gave other trash a big budget. No, they didn't want to spend the money on Picard because they had an actual good season. They slashed its budget, and we got Starfleet Academy. That was shot in 4K, but no, Picard, it couldn't be 4K because they suck. And I am celebrating the fact that Starfleet Academy, Star Trek, which is like the king of physical media on every format. It's the only television show that ever had anything released on CED. It's been released on every format multiple times. It is the king of physical formats. And Starfleet Academy, I could be proven wrong, but I think at this point it may be the only show that doesn't get a physical media release, because who in their right mind is going to buy that shit? They only had 40,000 people watching an episode. That's I'm not making that up. Facts. That's how bad the viewership was worldwide. 40,000, and that dropped by the end of the series.
We know that you're going through it. You're fighting the elements quite a lot, Chris, in Canada right now. So obviously, by the time when next we meet, I do hope that not only do all your doors remain in place, but you are free. You are safe and well.
Well, yes, I was under a tornado watch during a part of this that we were discussing in the live chat, and about an hour and a half ago, because I have security cameras because I live in a war zone. So I have them up on my monitor, and I was watching during this watch a funnel cloud forming near my backyard. Now, luckily, it did not form, but at one point it was like pitch dark outside. I live in hell. I literally live in hell. Like this sucks. Don't come to Canada, for the love of God. Save yourself. I don't know. Go to Kuwait. You'll have a better time.
You know what? I just think, honestly speaking, as a loyal American, I actually think to prevent, and I'm sorry that you're having all the problems with your yellow sky and all the fires you're having, but to prevent all of that coming down and affecting my country, I actually think we should just put a big dome over your whole country that just prevents things like this from affecting us.
So basically, I have no hope of escaping. Well, I have no hope of escaping anyway. We're already in hell. So yeah, actually, you know what? I will endorse that. This country is so horrific. Literally, we are poisoning the states now with our fire smoke.
Yes, you are.
It's like I believe it has blown into to California, hasn't it, Gary? I know we polluted New York City. I don't know
that it's gotten down that far, but I know like Wisconsin, you see like, pictures of, like, I saw some news reports from Wisconsin where it looks like it's right in their backyard, all the smoke you guys are polluting us with.
It was the last week, Wednesday. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. I'll tell the story real quick and then we can go. But this is what we're dealing with. So we had a heat wave. Right. So this was actually one of the hottest days we've had in decades. Like, it was like you went outside and it was like the wind was like an oven in your face. Like, this was our almost 50 degrees humidex day. Then I got up the next day, and I'm usually up pretty early. My alarm goes off at 6:30, and sort of where I am, our sun comes up around 5 o'clock in the morning. So usually it's very bright at 6:30 in the morning. So I wake up, and my drapes are closed, but all I see is like yellow. This can't be normal. So I look at my clock. I'm like 6:30. What the hell? So I go and open the window. I have never seen anything like this in my life. The pictures that you've seen, you think they look terrifying? Oh no, this is nothing compared to what it actually looked like. So I open the window, and it's like dark yellow, like everything. And there's so much smoke, you can barely see like it literally looked like the apocalypse, like everything was on fire. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take Sky for a walk. Sky's my Labrador retriever, for those of you who don't know. So we're getting, and it's so bad, you can actually smell smoke inside the house. So I'm like, what's it going to be like outside? So I opened the door. It was basically like smoke just came in your face. Like you couldn't breathe. Like it's like you were in the fire. We were still in the middle of a heat wave, so it's like, you know, the hot wind blowing in my face, but the hot wind smells like smoke. So we're going out there. We could only go like half a block because you literally could not breathe. Got in my car, and it's got, you know, like modern cars, it has the lights that adjust depending on the time of day. My car thought it was the middle of the night at 7:30 in the morning. It's like lights are on full blast. I'm driving. I can't. You can barely see anything in front of you. The smoke is so thick, and everything is just yellow. You can't breathe. You don't even want to turn your AC or anything on because it's going to be venting air in from the outside. So you'll just be venting smoke into your car, and like you can see everybody's looking like, are we about to die? So the weather, I go to the Weather Network where we now have fire smoke alerts, and it was like this all day, and it was so eerie because you look outside and all you see is just yellow, like just I live in hell.
It does sound like the Cursed Earth from Judge Dredd.
No, it's worse. It is worse. Although
I get that reference. Yep.
But it did stop the tweakers from pooping on the street.
Everybody else was shitting themselves, but the
literally
cutter stopped working. Great. Okay. That wraps it up. Well, obviously, I hope that next time everything goes a little bit more smoothly.
Oh no, I Dan, half my province is on fire. We've already broken the record for the largest fire in, I think, continental history.
Wow.
North of Thunder Bay, which is several hours away. But no, I think we have I think we're now over 200 active fires in the province. Many of them are not controlled. We don't actually have enough firefighters or equipment. We've been choking on smoke for weeks. Literally, I am literally in hell. Oh yes, and if I say any bad things about bad people, we get to go to jail, which is why I'm now referring to certain people as Teletubbies. So the Teletubbies are pooping on the street, folks.
On that note, this is the point, I think, Gary, where I have to hit end simulation. It's time to warp out. I've been Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. We'll see you out there somewhere. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Do whatever you need to do, however it is that you do it. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.